everybody, and welcome once again to Real Shame. It's the show where we talk about our list of movie blind spots. My name is Andy.
And I'm Adam.
And again, we are in December, and we were talking about, we got festive Christmas sweaters on.
Mine has a cat on it.
Mine has Space Invaders, but it's Santa Claus, and you probably can't even see it. But anyway, but on today's episode, we are going to talk about some kind of relatively new Christmas movies, both animated.
Yes.
Both directed by Bob Zemeckis, as his friends call him, Robert Zemeckis. But before we get into the movie we're going to talk about today, we always like to start off Monday's episode with what we've been watching lately. So, Adam, I'll throw it over to you.
All right.
What have you been watching lately?
So, last week I mentioned we started The Crown, and we're continuing going forward with The Crown. Mm-hmm. So I think we're well through the second season. We did take a break to watch some of the movies for our show here, and also because, like I said, it's still very much the same. There's one episode where they changed it up a bit, but still feels very much the same kind of formulaic episodes. So I had to take a break from that. This is going to get into our viewer question this week, but I started watching Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. What I like to do every Christmas time, and I've been doing this for the last 4 or 5 years, is I watch the Harry Potter movies. I rewatch them. Uh-huh. And so, and you can do it. There's 8 movies, so you can do it in a week if you watch one a night and then add 2 at the end. So I watch those, and I'll talk more about them at the end, but, I like them. That's why I watch them. And lastly, I watched something that I discovered last year, and I was talking about it with some friends and decided to put it on to put myself in the holiday mood. And I watched Kacey Musgraves' Christmas special. This is on Amazon Prime. Mm-hmm. It's a 40-minute Christmas special where she sings, and it's really cool. It came out last year. It's super cool, and I wish there was more. I wish they would do one every year because I really like it.
Okay.
Not a big country music fan, but I just kind of dig the vibe of the show.
She sings Christmas songs and stuff.
She sings Christmas songs, some classics. She sings with Leon Bridges. She sings with Lana Del Rey. She sings with Camilla. I'm gonna mess up her last name. Yeah, Cabello. She sings with some other people, and so I think it's pretty cool.
Okay.
All right, so that's what I've been watching. Let me throw it over to you, Andy. What have you been watching?
I watched a kind of late 70s movie that was put out by Criterion not too long ago called Girlfriends. I think they started filming it in 1975 or something like that, and it's independent cinema. It's an independent film from the late 70s, but it took them a couple of years to kind of finish it. It stars Melanie Mayron. It's even got Christopher Guest in it. Guest, yes, and Bob Balaban plays a kind of a small part in it. Eli Wallach is in it. We saw him in The Magnificent Seven. He's the villain in The Magnificent Seven. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a really good kind of independent film, and it's about a young woman played by Melanie Mayron who is single in New York City. She's trying to make it as a photographer, and just kind of her ups and downs in her life, and juggling relationships and trying to find a job and trying to find gigs and people that will buy her photographs. And she meets Christopher Guest, and they kind of start dating, and her her roommate moves out to get married to Bob Balaban and all this stuff. But I thought it was a really fresh kind of film. I say fresh, was just funny. It came out in the 1970s, but it had like a really kind of lively feel to it. I enjoyed it quite a bit. I feel like it goes good with a double bill with another. I think this movie was also put out by Criterion called An Unmarried Woman, also from the late 70s. Paul Mazursky directed, because both movies are kind of about women who find themselves being single and kind of, again, juggling relationships and juggling work life, all in New York City. Grand old New York City back in 1978. And apparently Stanley Kubrick was a big film of this movie, Girlfriends.
Big film.
He was a big champion of this film.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. I watched. I'd heard of it, but it's because Criterion put it out. I was like, oh, I'll give this a shot.
So what made you choose it? Was it just something that you just looked, you had it, and you figured you put it on, or did you see a post, or?
No, I had it and figured I'd put it on. I mean, I'd heard it was good. I'd heard that it was a nice little independent film from the 70s. So yeah, I just thought I'd give it a shot. But I was really, really not surprised, but I was glad, that it was so good.
Yeah, awesome.
I liked it. I would watch it again. Following that, I watched a movie that I would not ever watch again. It's Jim Jarmusch's latest film, I guess, The Dead Don't Die.
Oh man, the trailers didn't do that movie. They didn't make that movie look good at all.
Well, I didn't think it looked bad necessarily, but it's terrible. I didn't find it the least bit funny. Of course I never really thought the trailer was all that funny.
Yeah.
But the movie's not funny at all. It's incredibly kind of slow and just goes absolutely nowhere. It does have kind of a meta aspect to it, which I think was supposed to be funny, but I didn't find it funny at all.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's kind of a weird thing that happens with Tilda Swinton's character, which comes out of nowhere, which I didn't care the least bit about. I mean, it was really like abysmally bad.
Yeah.
I would say that The Dead Don't Die and the newest Black Christmas were two of the worst films I've watched in quite a while.
Oh, wow.
And it's surprising to me because I think Jim Jarmusch is a talented filmmaker, but this, man.
It was a stinker.
This was a big stinker. I couldn't stand it. I thought it was awful.
Adam Driver couldn't save it.
Bill Murray couldn't save it. Chloe Sevigny, nobody could save it. It was beyond help.
It was dead on arrival.
It sure was.
There you go.
I wish the Dead would have stayed dead for this movie. It sucked. And then I watched another movie with Dead in the title. This one's on Amazon Prime. It's a movie from the late 80s. I have actually seen it before, but I remembered nothing about it. I decided to watch it again. It's called Dead Heat. It stars Treat Williams and Joe Piscopo.
Yes, Treat Williams.
Joe Piscopo from Saturday Night Live.
Treat Williams, the substitute. Was he in the substitute? He was the substitute.
I think the substitute is... Well, I think he was in one of the sequels.
Oh, yeah,
the original substitute, I think, is Tom Berenger.
Oh, yeah.
I believe Treat Williams is in part 2.
Yeah.
Or something like that.
Because they're going to get Tom Berenger.
So Dead Heat is a good example of a movie that has a really cool premise and, again, bad execution.
Okay.
It's not very good overall.
So kind of like Game Over, Dial Code Santa Claus kind of thing.
And this is a movie that is clamoring for a remake. I feel like if they made this movie now... So, it's written by Shane Black's brother. And maybe directed by Shane Black's brother. I can't remember. And Shane Black has a very small part in it.
Okay.
But it's a buddy kind of cop comedy. So I say remake it. This time have Shane write it. Don't have his brother write it. Have Shane write it because he's good. He's good at that sort of thing.
The Black brothers.
And maybe have him direct it too. I don't know. But I think it definitely remake it. It's a movie. Again, it's kind of a zombie film, but they found a way to bring people back to life. And they are kind of nefariously using these people to do like bank robberies and stuff because they can't die. So when the cops show up, they start shooting them. Nothing happens, right? You have to like blow them up in order for, so they're using to commit a string of robberies or whatever. Well, Treat Williams and Joe Piscopo are two police officers that get wind of this. Treat Williams ends up dying and being raised from the dead. So you've got one, undead cop and an alive cop in Joe Piscopo. Now they've teamed up to try and find these guys that are doing this. I thought it's a cool premise.
I'm getting kind of like
a good
Universal Soldiers vibe from it a little bit.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. So good premise, bad execution.
Good premise, bad execution. Definitely, I say definitely needs a remake. Shane Black, get on it.
Get on it.
Yeah. So that's what I've been watching.
All right. So let's get into the featured review for this week. We're going to go, like Andy said a little bit earlier, we're going to dive into some of Robert Zemeckis' motion capture animated movies. And the first one's going to be his first mocap animated movie, and that's going to be 2004's Polar Express. So let's get into that.
Mocap. I like
that. Mocap, motion capture.
Yeah.
Well, you coming?
Where?
Why, to the North Pole, of course. This is the Polar Express.
The North Pole?
I see. Hold this, please. Thank you. Is this you?
Yeah.
Well, it says here, no photo with the department store Santa this year. No letter to Santa. And you made your sister put out the milk and cookies. Sounds to me like this is your crucial year. If I were you, I would think about climbing on board.
All right. Polar Express is directed by Bob Robert Zemeckis. I don't know if he's going to call us. He's going to let us call us Bob after these reviews.
It's only for his friends. We're not his friends.
Yeah, we're not his friends. He also wrote this movie along with William Broyles Jr. It's based on a book that came out in 1985, written and illustrated by Chris von Allsburg. And I didn't write the thing down. Basically, the Polar Express follows a young boy's journey on this magical train to the North Pole as he gets to meet Santa Claus. So that's basically the premise of it. It's a movie that you haven't seen, and also a movie I haven't seen.
Oh, I thought you had seen it. Okay.
No,
Okay.
I have not. I've only seen one of his mocap movies prior to this.
Okay.
And we'll talk about that in a little bit. So I'm going to throw it over to you. What did you know about this movie going in? Did you read the book or anything? And what did you, I don't know, maybe.
No.
Maybe you had the book read to you. I don't know. And what did you think of the movie?
So yeah, I mean, obviously, I remember when this movie came out in 2004. I had no interest in seeing it, though. I mean, again, I wasn't like a hater or anything.
It just wasn't for us.
Yeah,
we're
I was
too
like,
old.
I'm not really for that. But I remember, like my parents, I think, took the grandkids to see it or something, and my parents had a little Santa Claus doll around that time that I think you flipped a switch or you slapped it or you did something. And it would say the line from the movie that Santa says in the movie, "The magic of Christmas lies in your heart." That's like the one. Maybe you pulled a string. I don't know what you did, but that's all that the little Santa doll would say. And of course, because I'm 10 years old, I would always say, "The magic of Christmas lies in your fart," and snicker. And the grandkids would get a kick out of it, right? So I was amusing them. I don't know.
Hey, we never grow up.
No
men ever grow up.
But yeah. So I mean, I knew a kid got on a train. I knew he got on the Polar Express. I knew Tom Hanks played multiple roles, but I really did not know much about it outside of that. And I mean, obviously it's Christmas. I knew that. So I put it on, and I liked it. I thought it was like pretty entertaining. I thought it moved pretty well. I mean, literally, they're on a train, so they're kind of going through. I felt like, maybe it is obviously geared more towards children or whatever, but I was never bored with it. I thought it had kind of a good message. Again, it's another one of those stories where the kid is kind of like starting to disbelieve or starting to lose his faith or belief in Santa Claus. That's not a new idea. That's been going on forever. Yes, Virginia, there is a Santa Claus that, dates from like 1897. Yeah. So, that old story where the girl wrote into the newspaper and he's like, is there a Santa Claus or whatever? So these kinds of stories aren't new. But I enjoyed this. I felt like, their kind of travel to the North Pole was interesting. I wasn't sure, they start singing the Hot Chocolate song. I was like, so this movie's a musical. But it's not really, it's like two songs.
You have one musical number.
It's like Hot Chocolate, and then they sing a song, like the three kids sing a song kind of at the front of the train.
Yeah.
And then you've got like a weird Steven Tyler looking elf.
Yeah.
When they get to the North Pole, it is Steven Tyler, right. And he's singing like Rocking All Over the World or Rocking on Top of the World or something like that. But those are basically the only songs. All the rest of the songs are like oldies, like old classic tunes.
Yeah, the old King Winslet.
Yeah, Good King Wenceslas or whatever. Something.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I liked it. I mean, I don't think it's going to become a Christmas staple around my house or anything like that. But I expected to not really. I mean, I say that, but I was like, I'm not sure if I'm going to get into this or whatever. But I thought it was harmless fun. Like, I thought it was pretty good.
So, I agree with you. So a little bit on this movie was, like I said, it's based on a book that was written and illustrated. Tom Hanks actually optioned the book to be made into the movie back in 1999, and he wanted to play Santa Claus and the conductor, which he got to do. And also, I was reading that when they optioned it, they said it was not going to be an animated movie.
Yeah,
but it turned out to be one.
I read that, yeah.
Zemeckis, when he got attached to it, he felt the art style of the book contained a lot of the emotion, so he decided to use motion capture for this. And for those of you who don't know what motion capture is, it's basically they were in a volume that have a bunch of cameras watching them, both cinema and infrared cameras, and they'd have markers on their suit. And basically, as they move, those cameras would pick up those markers and be able to track them in 3D space using triangulation. And then they're able to transcribe those movements into the computer and use that as a basis to animate the characters. And so, we got movies like this. Lately with like Avatar, and then, with the Hulk from the Avengers movies. But this is, Planet of the Apes movies. This is a technology that is increased and it's been used a whole lot with that, right?
But this is the first all motion capture movie? Is that correct or no?
I don't know if that's true. I read it was the first fully mocapped animated movie on IMDb.
Yeah, I think that's what I'm thinking of. Yeah.
So I don't know where that is on there. And Tom Hanks, initially Bob Zemeckis wanted Tom Hanks to play all the roles, but that proved to be very arduous. So they pared it down to like 5 roles. He plays like 5 different roles in the movie.
Yeah.
So just kind of want to give that little history on that movie. I'm also like you. I thought I wasn't gonna like this movie, but I found it mostly inoffensive, I guess. I thought it was okay. I think the problem with this movie for me is it's too theme parky. And it's kind of those things that you can watch some of these movies and you can go, oh, that was a movie that was meant to be broadcast in 3D. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, kind of like we talked about that one Final Destination movie, Final Destination 4, I think it was, where you're like, or, you know, you can just tell, like, the way things are shot, the way things are presented to the camera, you're like, oh, this is, like, for that trick of, like, this is for 3D. So I felt that in the movie, but ultimately I felt the movie was really theme parky. Like, it just felt like you would have these bouts of, like, action and, like, the camera would, like, tip over and it's almost like you're in an IMAX screen or you're like on a theme park ride where you're supposed to feel like the car rattle and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. Like it was made for D-Box or whatever and you're supposed to like, like that kind of stuff going on. And I feel like that kind of took away from the movie for me, you know? It kind of took me out because it doesn't feel like that stuff is rooted in character. Like we're not telling more of the character by doing those kind of things. That's more like a meta narrative of we're watching this movie, we're going to make it fun, it's for the kids, but it's not really like, for me, it doesn't feel like it's grounded in the character. Even though the character's experiences, we're not experiencing it with them. It feels like it's removed for that, and I think that's why that doesn't ring true to me. You know what I mean? So that's really the big thing that I take away from it. I feel ultimately at the end of the day, it was just used there to pad out the whole movie. Like they didn't have a full 90-minute movie, so they needed to add these 5 minutes worth of dips and rollers and bounces around to kind of pat it out and stuff,
I kind of like that stuff.
Yeah.
I was like, woo! Oh! I felt like a kid. I was riding the theme park. I didn't mind it.
And to your hot chocolate thing, I think this movie probably would have been better if it was a musical, honestly. I think that would have propelled it a whole lot more and would have made it more.
I kind of like that hot chocolate song, so I did. Yeah, I kind of wanted more songs. I wrote down it's a half-hearted musical because it barely has any songs in it. I think it either go hard or go home, right?
I think it would have served the movie a whole lot better if it was a musical. And you don't get a whole lot of characterization in the movie. Like the main boy character doesn't have a name.
Yeah. I don't think you could look for characterization in a movie like this, though.
I mean, you can have the people grow a little bit.
Yeah.
I mean, I think at the end of the day, he's supposed to believe in Santa Claus because he saw this whole thing that happened.
Right.
And I think that's like the bare basics of it, but he doesn't really grow, I feel like, in the movie. So okay. So for me, that kind of bothers me. The last thing I want to harp on is I feel like Alan Silvestri used some cues from Back to the Future.
I thought it sounded like Danny Elfman's score from Edward Scissorhands.
Oh, really?
A little bit, yeah.
Oh, man, there's some parts where I'm like, I think Alan Silvestri wrote the music for this because it sounded like when he was climbing on the train, I'm like, oh, that sounds like some of the stuff you'd hear around the DeLorean and stuff like that.
Well, I think a lot of composers tend to steal from themselves and tend to reuse a lot of things. So, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if there's some similar kind of cues and themes that he cribbed from himself.
So I'm kind of with you. I think I'm kind of glad I watched it, but it's not going to become a staple of this kind of Christmas season.
I would watch it again, but yeah, I'm not going to watch it every Christmas. Yeah. But I will say, just because, again, I'm like 10 years old inside.
Christmas is in your fart?
The magic of Christmas lies in your fart. No, but I was making up my own story as I was watching it.
Oh, really?
So, yeah, I was imagining that the kid just consumed like a massive amount of psychedelics.
Yeah.
And when he boarded the train, he actually was just outside freezing to death. There was no train.
This is like happening in like the last couple seconds of his life.
He's imagining himself getting on the train and all of this, because it's like a trip that he's taking, an LSD trip. But in reality, he's just freezing slowly to death outside. And then at the end, when he hears like the bell, that's like the bell that the morgue guy put on his toe.
Bring out your dad.
They put the little bell on the toes in case they move or whatever. I saw that in some movie. And his parents can't hear the bell because he's dead, so he's not moving. His parents are there to.
I just figured he ate cheese before bed and just dreamt the whole thing.
Maybe, but I like the fact that he consumed a massive amount of psychedelics, and it was all like a bad, or maybe not a bad trip, but good trip.
It would have made the movie a lot better in my book if that happened.
Yeah, well, it did happen to me in my mind, so that lifted the movie up a notch or two. So I don't know.
So I mean, like I said, it's. One of the things I've read about it was that a lot of people found the animation creepy.
I read that too,
but I didn't find it at all.
Well, and I was thinking about that, and I think we're so used to it now. I don't know if I would have found it creepy when it first came out, or some unnatural or something like that. But no, I didn't find it creepy either, because I think I've seen this before. I've seen things like this before, so it wasn't weird to me.
I mean, to spoil the next movie a little bit, I did find that creepy.
Okay.
More so, and this one I didn't find creepy at all.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's all I kind of really have to say. I mean, it's like I said, it's just, it's it's not offensive, right? It's just it's okay.
Yeah.
I don't think he did a whole lot to elevate it than what it was. I think there's room for improvement on it. Especially like you flesh out some of the other characters. I do think like making a musical would make it a lot more interesting, because you could get more emotion in it. You can figure out where these characters are coming from, like emotionally and stuff. But yeah,
I mean, I think the main focus is the one kid. I mean, it doesn't bother me that you don't know his name or whatever. I tell you, now that you mentioned, I got super annoyed at the nerdy kid.
Because know-it-all.
Well, Eddie Deason plays him and does his voice, and Eddie Deason has an unmistakable voice, an unmistakable look, although he's not live action in this movie or anything like that. But I was like, the minute that kid started talking, I was like, it's Eddie Deason. Here he is.
But what about that one kid that didn't get in the car with him? Was he like, what was his story? Was he just from a poor family? Is that what
we'll talk about that later. We'll talk about that off camera. Oh, okay. No, I'm just kidding. I don't know. I have no clue. Now that kid, I didn't know where he was coming from.
Yeah, I figured maybe like they were gonna say like his family wasn't like didn't celebrate Christmas, and that's why he was like so left out of it. But that was never resolved, so I don't know what was going on.
Yeah,
his house looked kind of ramshackled and was on the edge of town.
It was, yeah. He lived on the wrong side of the tracks.
So maybe that's why.
Something. Yeah. He reminded me of Fuzzy from Cider House Rules. He looked like that. He looked like that kid. I think you kept calling that kid
Fuzzy Luck.
I think you kept calling that kid Wheezy or something when we were talking about Cider House Rules, but I believe it's Fuzzy. Yeah. I thought he kind of was modeled after that kid. It's the same kid that's in Malcolm in the Middle. I thought it was not Frankie Muniz, but the younger kid. Yeah. I thought it looked like that kid, but I don't know.
Maybe it was.
Who knows?
All right, so that was our thoughts on Polar Express. Any reviews on that? Did anyone review it?
It's actually 56% fresh on Rotten Tomatoes, so it's technically not fresh.
Yeah.
And 63% audience score, so barely fresh audience score. Roger Ebert loved it. The magic of Christmas did lie in his heart. Or his fart. I don't know. It's 4 stars from Roger Ebert. And Leonard Maltin was like, he gave it 2.5.
I read part of Roger Ebert's review because I think they had like a synopsis on Wikipedia, and he saw more to this movie than I saw. He gave the movie a lot of credit.
Like you, Adam. Jeez.
That's true.
The magic of Christmas is in his heart.
But speaking of Scrooges, we're going to follow this up with another Robert Zemeckis motion capture movie. And if you thought we were going to do Beowulf, you are wrong. I saw Beowulf in theaters, and it sucked. So we're not going to do that one. But a movie that I haven't seen that Robert Zemeckis did, and that also fits our outfits and the holiday season, is A Christmas Carol with Jim Carrey. So that's the movie I decided to pair with the Polar Express. So we're going to watch that next time, guys. And if you want us to answer your question, because on those episodes we do answer viewers' questions, shoot us an email, realshame@gmail.com. Follow us on social media. We're at realshame on Instagram. If you're watching us through a podcasting app or through YouTube, like, subscribe, share, because that stuff really does help.
If you're watching us through a podcast app, then you also consumed a massive amount of psychedelics.
You know what? It might be more interesting than actually watching us on YouTube. But hey, do both. Let us know what's the better experience. That'd be cool. And we'll see you in a couple of days, guys, when we look at Robert Zemeckis' A Christmas Carol. We'll see you soon. Bye.